All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Tonight, you might notice we have a slightly different setup. Sound is going to be a bit different because I am not in my usual recording location and I forgot to bring my headset mic with me. So, we're just going to be using the mic straight off of the laptop. We'll see how that goes. I'm showing that it's picking up my voice okay, and I'm hoping that there's not too much echo and not too much background noise in this location where I am. As usual, pregame music is brought to us by Stream Beats. Stream Beats is created by a streamer for streamers. Copyright-free music that you can put on all of your live streams, whether they be on Twitch or YouTube or any other platform, TikTok, whatever. And you won't get any copyright strikes. Put them in your video content that you put up for people to find when you are not live. And also want to send a big shout out to Mo over at the tabletopbellhop.com. Mo, he is the OG when it comes to all things tabletop games. So go check him out, tabletopbellhop.com. Welcome, viewers. As I mentioned, we'll get started at the top of the hour. And tonight, we're going to be looking at the Oni, otherwise known as the Ogre Mage. So, we do have a segment at the end where we take questions from the chat room. So, if you have questions about the Oni or Ogre Mage, any questions pop up during tonight's show, let me know. Just put it in the chat and I will check that when we get to the Q&A segment towards the end of the show. For those of you in the US, I hope you had a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Those of you outside the US, I hope your month of May has been good for you. And that you are getting ready to enjoy a nice month of June. Personally, May was a bit of a mixed bag. Had a lot of nice growth on the Twitch and YouTube channels, so appreciate that. A few more subscribers coming on board on those platforms, so that's always great. And then a few days ago, on the downside, my air conditioner died. And I live in Florida. So by the time we get to the middle of April, it feels like summer anywhere else in the country. So it's been pretty hot, and the contractor told me it won't be until this coming Thursday that they can get out to replace the air conditioner. So that's like over a week without AC. I put up with it as long as I could, and then I looked and I said, oh, I have all of these hotel points that I haven't been able to use in a year because of COVID, and I've got like a week's worth of free nights, so I'm just going to go ahead and check myself into a hotel for the next few days, have nice comfortable air conditioning at night until the AC at home gets fixed, and not have to pay for it out of my pocket. So, few things that might be a little bit different tonight. It's the premium hotel Wi-Fi, but it's still hotel Wi-Fi, so not gonna be able to vouch whether the recording or the stream is as clear as it usually is. That's one thing. Second thing, like I mentioned, when I got here and got checked in, I realized, oh, I forgot to bring my headset mic. So we're using the mic off of the laptop. So that sound is a little bit different. And then, you know, the environment where I record at home is generally pretty quiet. Don't usually pick up any background noise. Will be interesting to see how much background noise gets picked up here, and whether that's an issue or not. So I do record all of these for replay on YouTube later, and tonight I'm actually testing out simulcasting on both Twitch and YouTube to see how that works. Alright, just about 1 minute and we'll get started. All right, welcome everybody to Monster Monday. My name is DM Gallibond, and tonight is May 31st, 2021, and for Monster Monday this evening, we are going to be looking at the Oni, also known in some editions of D&D as the Ogre Mage. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the monster, where it came from, and all that kind of good stuff, and then get into how you can use it in your campaigns and how you can reskin it and make it something completely new and fresh for your players that they have never seen before, that no other gaming group has ever seen before, because it's your own special created monster that is based on the Ogre Magi, or the Ogre Mage, or the Oni, however you want to call them. Alright, so this picture of the Oni comes to us from the 2nd edition Monster Manual, or Monstrous Manual, I should say. 2nd edition AD&D Monstrous Manual. And when they first appeared back in Oriental Adventures for AD&D, or 1st edition. And they are described as fearsome spirits who dwell in desolate and forbidding places. Common Oni stand 7 to 8 feet tall, have 1 to 3 eyes, and 1 or 2 horns on their head. Their arms and legs are covered with coarse hair. Their hands end in dirty, thick talons. Their skin is normally red, but other colors including green, black, orange, and purple have been seen. There's also blue-skinned Oni, although these are more commonly referred to as Ogre Magi. So the Oni in the Oriental Adventures 1st edition, that really does come more out of the folklore Oni. Because Oni are spirit monsters in Oriental folklore. I believe primarily in Japanese, but I don't know enough about all the cultures to say that they don't also appear in other Oriental cultures' folklore. But I believe Japanese is the primary place where you find Oni in the folklore. All right, so the coloration, and from 2nd edition, the coloration found in Ogre Magi is pale brown skin and yellow hair. They have black nails and dark eyes and with white pupils. Teeth and tusks are very white. Ogre Magi are taller and more intelligent than their cousins, and they dress in Oriental clothing and armor. So now you can already see that between 1st edition and 2nd edition, there's quite a bit of difference in the way they're described. In 1st edition, it says they have blue skin, and the 2nd edition image shows blue skin, but the description from the 2nd edition Monstrous Manual says they're pale brown skin and yellow hair, and they have black nails and dark eyes with white pupils. So it's there's a very different sort of change from the way they're described in 1st edition and in 2nd edition. And now in 3rd edition, it says this creature looks like a big demonic human. It has green skin, so now we have green skin, not blue, not pale brown, but green skin, dark hair, and a pair of short ivory horns protruding from its forehead. The eyes are dark with strikingly white pupils, and its teeth and claws are jet black. So, yet again, differences when you get to 3rd edition. Now, some of those details begin to get fixed in 3rd edition and stay consistent, but other depictions of them will change, as you will see as we go through this evening. All right, now this image of the Oni comes from 5th edition. And as you know, they just talked about how the nails and teeth are black. Well, this guy doesn't have black teeth, but he does have black nails. So that clearly they're picking that up, and they've got those white pupils in the eyes. So, Oni Lore. From 5th edition, it talks about how Oni are night haunters. So by the light of day, an Oni hides its true form with magic, gaining the trust of those it intends to betray when darkness descends. These creatures can change their size as well as their shape, appearing as humanoids as they pass through towns, pretending to be travelers, woodcutters, or frontier folk. In such a form, an Oni takes stock of the selection of humanoids in a settlement and devises way to abduct and devour some of them. Okay, so now DMs, you want to take a note of that right there, because when we talk about how you can use Oni in your campaigns, that's going to be very important. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about that. So now, 4th edition, looking at the lore for Oni. Status among Oni is measured by wealth and by the number and quality of slaves each one commands. So Oni often compete with each other to amass the best slaves or the most riches. Oni use their powers of illusion to disguise themselves as humanoids of different races. In these guises, they infiltrate society and mislead their enemies. Many Oni also have the power to assume gaseous form or turn invisible. And those are other traits about the Oni that have remained into the modern era. Okay, and then going back to 3rd edition and looking at the lore of the Oni in 3rd edition, the Ogre Mage is a more intelligent and more dangerous variety of its mundane cousin. Rapacious and cruel by nature, Ogre Mages often lead organized raids for slaves, treasure, and food. So, that is a bit about the lore of the Oni. Okay, and now we're back to our 2nd edition image. Now, it's in 1st edition, the Oriental Adventures Handbook, where the Oni first appeared in D&D, they don't have a depiction of it. So 2nd edition is the earliest depiction of an Oni that I could find in an official TSR or Wizards of the Coast source book. I couldn't find one any earlier. There's probably all kinds of fan art out there, but I like to try to go with the official art for several reasons. One of which is that as long as you don't try to claim that it's your artwork, Wizards of the Coast is perfectly happy for you to use and share their artwork in your content that you create. So that's a safe reason to go and use the Wizards of the Coast art. Alright, so properties of giants, or a creature type giant. Every creature in D&D has a type, and the Oni as being, some editions of D&D will differ on whether they are true ogres or not true ogres, but in 5th edition, just like ogres, they are classified as giants. So, giants tower over humans and their kind. They are human-like in shape, though some have multiple heads or deformities. The 6 varieties of true giants are hill giants, stone giants, frost giants, fire giants, cloud giants, and storm giants. But besides these creatures, such creatures such as ogres and trolls are also giants. All right. So now we come to looking at the mechanical features of Oni, where we will actually go and dive into the source books from each edition and talk a little bit about how the Oni have been depicted and what is said about them and some of their mechanical features, their hit dice or challenge rating, whatever the edition uses. All right, so the Oni that are Ogre Magi fall into the common Oni category here. So they are 8 hit die monsters with an armor class of 4 and they have 2 attacks, 3 to 10. So that would be 1d8 plus 2 damage each. And then their average intelligence, large size, and lawful evil in temperament. So common Oni are found living in rocky mountain regions, deserted ruins, graveyards, other sites commonly considered haunted. Occasionally they take up residence along a lonely highway at a shrine or gate, terrorizing all who go by. They're bloodthirsty and cruel, attacking for food and the sheer delight of cruelty. They commonly fight with 2-handed swords, wielded in one hand, or their powerful claws. They're able to polymorph self 3 times per day, fly like the fly spell 3 times per day, become invisible 2 times a day, use cloud trapeze for themselves only, and cause fear at will. Frequently found in command of lesser creatures such as Bakemono, goblin rats, and Gaki. When encountered, 10% chance Oni's accompanied by 2d10 of these creatures. And there's always these creatures in their lair, and they're able to speak the language of their kind, the language of Tengu, Bakemono, Hengeyokai, and the local human population. So that would probably be common as it became known in later editions of D&D. Alright, so that's the first edition Oni/Ogre Mage. Now in second edition, the Oni are not called Oni, but they are called Ogre Mage. And notice here, it still says that they are found in any Oriental land. So they're still harking back to the way they came in the game through Oriental adventures. And they have the armor class 4. They have 5+2 hit dice, a THAC0 of 15, 1 attack for 1d12, and now they have magical spells that they can use to attack other creatures. So the Ogre Mage, they call it an Oriental Ogre, has light blue, light green, or pale brown skin with ivory horns. Hair is usually a different color. Main exception to this coloration is found in Ogre Magi with pale brown skin and yellow hair. They have black nails and dark eyes with white pupils. Teeth and tusks are very white. Ogre Magi are taller and more intelligent than their cousins. So they can perform the following feats of magic. They fly for 12 turns, become invisible, cause darkness in a 10-foot radius, polymorph to a human or similar bipedal creature, anywhere from 4 to 12 feet tall, and regenerate 1 hit point per round. So a lost arm or leg or whatever must be reattached to regenerate. So once per day, they can do the following. They can charm person, cast sleep, assume gaseous form, and create a cone of cold 60 feet long with a terminal diameter of 20 feet that inflicts 8d8 points of damage. So they attack with magic first and resort to physical attacks only if necessary. And they have +1 on their morale checks. So they prefer the Nanganada or scimitar and whip. Those found in Oriental settings might possess key power or have mastered a martial arts form. As Ogre Magi are intelligent, they will not fight if faced with overwhelming odds, but will flee to gather their forces or hide. So that is a bit about them in 2nd edition. Now in 3rd edition, this is the Ogre Magi, or the Ogre Mage, in 3rd edition. So very different sort of creature than we've seen in 2nd edition, and even quite a bit different than the 5th edition version. So he is a large giant, 5d8 plus 15, hit dice 5d8 plus 15, initiative +4, armor class 18. Now, those of you who are not familiar with the old editions, In older D&D, before 3rd edition, armor class, the lower it was, the better. But from 3rd and on to the present time, the higher the armor class is, the better. You had to do a lot of calculations and kind of almost have a slide rule table when you were rolling attacks back in the old editions to figure out what the number on the die meant to what armor class you actually hit. And now it's just the die roll plus any modifiers equals the armor class you hit. So it's much simpler now. So they attack with a greatsword or a longbow, and their reach is 10 feet. So they have spell-like abilities. Their environment is cold hills. So this creature looks like a big demonic human. Green, yeah, okay, so we talked about that description. These creatures dwell in fortified structures or underground lairs, usually living alone or with a small group of ogre followers. Status among the ogre mages is measured by wealth. While they do not generally associate with their own kind, they will often undertake raids and schemes in competition with one another to amass the most riches. An ogre mage stands about 10 feet tall and weighs up to 700 pounds. Its skin varies in color from light green to light blue. Its hair is black or very dark brown. They favor loose, comfortable clothing and lightweight armor. And they speak both giant and common. Alright, so now their spell-like abilities. They will retreat using gaseous form rather than fight a losing battle. They do hold deep, abiding grudges. And so if an ogre mage ever flees from you in a battle, it's probably going to be back. And probably with a lot more friends when it does. Or a lot more creatures that it's bullied into being so afraid of it that it will attack something that nearly beat their boss before. Okay, so they can assume the form of any small, medium, or large humanoid or giant. And they have spell-like abilities at will. They can cast darkness, or they can go invisible at will. And then once per day, they can charm person, use cone of cold, use gaseous form, or cast sleep as a 9th level caster for each one of those spells. And the save DCs are charisma based. And as a free action, an ogre mage can cease or resume flight. While using gaseous form, it can fly at its normal speed and has perfect maneuverability. And they also have regeneration. Fire and acid will deal normal damage to an ogre mage, hey, just like a troll. An ogre mage that loses a limb or body part can reattach it by holding the severed member to the stump. Reattachment takes 1 minute if the head or some other vital organ is severed. It must be reattached within 10 minutes or the creature dies. An ogre mage cannot regrow lost body parts. Okay, so then that is and the regeneration is regeneration 5, so that means it regenerates 5 hit points per round. Okay. Now let's go to 4th edition. Now, 4th edition is sort of the odd duck in D&D because the rules just seem to kind of take a left turn off of the evolutionary path they were on from 1st through 3rd, and then they kind of went back to the same path for 5th. 4th was just kind of out there. It was very different. So there's 2 different kinds of Oni in 4th edition. There's an Oni Night Haunter, and there is an Oni Mage. So we get kind of 2 different flavors of Oni in 4th edition. So Night Haunters are murderous Oni that slip into small villages and towns to devour sleeping victims. They prize the flesh of intelligent humanoids above all else. Between meals, the Night Haunter Oni dwell in simple huts in isolated areas at the edge of civilization, relying on their magic to appear as hermits and thus conceal their murderous activities. So their initiative is +7. They have 180 hit points, 24 armor class, speed of 8, which is 40 feet in other editions, and fly speed of 40 as well. I'm sorry. And then their Morning Star is their primary weapon, but they can reach 10 feet or 2 squares with that. They have a hypnotic breath, and it's a close blast 5. The target is dazed, saved ends, first failed saving throw. The target falls unconscious, save ends. So that means that they can put somebody to sleep with their breath. Maybe because it smells so bad. It doesn't put them to sleep, it knocks them out. Because of that awful smell. Alright, then they have Devour Soul, which affects an unconscious target only. 2d10 plus 4 psychic damage, and the Oni Night Haunter regains 10 hit points. This attack does not wake the unconscious target. So that is a pretty devastating thing there. Then they have Deceptive Veil, which is an illusion. They can disguise itself to appear as an elderly, medium, or large humanoid. Now, that's interesting that here it would say it's an elderly one. All the other editions have just said they can assume the shape of any humanoid. It doesn't say they're old, young, whatever. So a successful insight check opposed by the Oni's bluff check pierces the disguise. In gaseous form, it can become insubstantial and gain a fly speed of 8 or 40 feet. Can enter and move through a porous obstacle that would otherwise prevent movement, such as a door or a cracked window. It remains in this form as long as it sustains the power. Okay, so then it talks a little bit about their tactics. They use their Deceptive Veil to appear as an elderly humanoid or sneak up on prey in gaseous form. In either case, its goal is to get close enough to use the hypnotic breath. And then there's the Oni Mage. So clever and rapacious, the Oni Mage, sometimes mistakenly referred to as an Ogre Mage, likes to bully weaker humanoid creatures into serving it. An Oni Mage often hides itself among those it leads. What seems to be an Orc Shaman, an Ogre Chief, or an Azer Forge Lord might in fact be an Oni Mage in disguise. And these guys have 172 hit points, regeneration of 5, armor class 26, speed of 35, and fly speed of 40. They have a great sword that also has a reach of 10 feet. Now this is a freezing blast, which is a cold damage, close blast 5, 1d8 plus 6 damage, and the target is slowed. Then Lightning Storm, Lightning Area Burst 2 within 10, plus 15 versus reflex, 2d6 plus 4 lightning damage. And then the Oni Mage deals an extra 1d6 damage on melee attacks against any target, and it has combat advantage against. Alright, so then it's also got this Deceptive Veil, but now this time it just says Oni Mage can disguise itself to appear as any medium or large humanoid. So it's interesting how the two different types of Oni, they have the same feature, but that feature works slightly different. In the Night Haunter, it only can appear as an old humanoid, but the Oni Mage can appear as any medium or large-sized humanoid. Standard invisibility, etc., etc. And then the Oni Mage will use its Deceptive Veil to hide its true form assuming a non-threatening guise. It turns invisible to gain con advantage for its ensuing attack. When confronting multiple foes, it relies on its freezing blast and lightning storm powers. And an Oni Mage rarely fights to the death and often flees a losing battle. But once again, like we said before, the Oni that flees is you're probably going to see it come back with help. Alright, and now we finally get to 5th edition, our current edition of the Oni. So the Oni in 5th edition has an armor class of 16 from Chainmail, 110 hit points, speed of 30, fly speed of 30. It can speak Common and Giant, and its innate spell casting includes darkness and invisibility at will, and then once per day it can do Charm Person, Cone of Cold, Gaseous Form, or Sleep. It has its attacks count as magic weapons, so it also has regeneration, and it only regains 10 hit points at the start of its turn if it has at least 1 hit point. So several of the earlier Oni had regeneration 5. This one has regeneration 10 in 5th edition. So then multi-attack. Oni makes 2 attacks either with its claws or its glaive. The claw is an attack plus 7, reach 5 feet, and deals 1d8 plus 4 slashing damage. The glaive is 2d10 plus 4 slashing damage against I guess that must be against large creatures, because then it's 1d10 plus 4 slashing damage against small or medium. Oh, no. Okay, I'm sorry. If it's in its true form, I see. If it's in its true form, it deals 2d10 plus 4 damage. But if it has assumed the form of a small or medium humanoid, it deals only 1d10 plus 4. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, then the shape change, Oni magically polymorphs into a small or medium humanoid, or a large giant, or back into its true form. And the only equipment that's transformed is the glaive, which shrinks so it's going to be wielded in humanoid form. And they, like we said, they're night haunters and magical ogres. Are sometimes called ogre mages because of their innate magical ability. Though they're only distantly related to true ogres, they share the ogre's habit of joining forces with other evil creatures. An Oni serves as a master if doing so proves lucrative, or provides it with a luxurious, well-defended home. Alright, so that is the skinny on the mechanical nature of all of the different ogre type or Oni types through the editions. So now let's keep going through here. Let's talk about how you might use an Oni in an encounter. Now this again is one of the 4th edition Oni. I think this is the Night Haunter version of the Oni. So when I'm talking about creating an encounter, I always take the monster as a solo and say, if I were going to use this monster as a solo, how could I make it a hard encounter for a party of 5 adventurers? And then what level would the party have to be? And then if the party's level gets higher, what would I have to do to make that a hard encounter? So at level 4, a single Oni in 5th edition against 5 4th level PCs is a hard encounter. And in fact, it just tips the scale beyond hard into deadly. I feel pretty comfortable telling you that you could do that for most players and not wind up with a TPK, because at least from my experience, it seems like what Wizards of the Coast considers a deadly encounter in 5th edition, right at that threshold of deadly, it's going to challenge the party, but most of the time the party's not going to have anybody go down or lose consciousness in the fight. Now, in some of my games, I really have to throw a lot of stuff at the players because of the way they work so well together. In other games that I run, when the players aren't so tightly knit and don't have such a good cohesive style of play, then you can cause a TPK with quite a bit less than what I have to use in other games. But when you get to that deadly threshold, that's usually not really deadly. Not unless you just have totally clueless players that don't know anything about how to play their class. Maybe they're brand new. Maybe they're trying to play a class they've never played before and play it up several levels, so they're not thinking tactically about what their character is able to do, those types of things. So then if the party moves up to level 5, having a single Oni against them becomes a medium encounter. So if you want to make it a hard encounter, add 1 Ogre to the Oni, and then you'll make it a hard encounter. Now, from level 6 to 9 for the party, a single Oni is an easy encounter. But if you wanted to make it a hard encounter for a 9th level party, you could add a second Oni or add 5 Ogres to make that a hard encounter. Alright, and now here's our 3rd edition image of the Ogre Mage. So now we're going to talk about how you as players might want to consider fighting against Oni. And this is all based on their 5th edition abilities, because I'm just presuming that most people are playing 5e now. I know a lot of people may still be involved in games from older editions, but I think 5e is so popular that most people are playing that now. So the Oni can cast darkness and invisibility at will. So that's something to keep in mind. It means it can disorient attackers and gain advantage by attacking from invisibility multiple times in the same fight. Fairy Fire makes a great counter to the invisibility feature, but the darkness is always going to give most parties fits, especially in these levels. It's going to be very rare that a party at this level has something that gives them the ability to see through magical darkness. Those kinds of magic items do exist, but they tend to not be available to characters until they get to like tier 3 or something. Alright, so additionally, Oni have more spell tricks, including going into gaseous form, using Charm Person, and casting Sleep or Cone of Cold. So finally, the Oni can change shape into any small or medium humanoid or any large giant. So if it ever gets out of sight of the party, it can return to view in a different form and potentially elude notice. So, you guys could be, or your party might be fighting an Ogre Mage, and it might be like over in a corner by an alley or something like that. And, it ducks down the alley. And if you guys are trying to chase it and run to it, maybe by the time you get there and look, there's no Ogre Mage anymore. There's like just a shopkeeper or something, or a peasant running away, screaming that there was a monster, that they saw a monster or something like that. So could be, the party might think, oh, it's gone invisible. But no, it might not be invisible. It might be that peasant running away. And it might be the actual monster. Okay, so now let's go behind the screen and talk about tactics for using Oni as a DM. So one thing you should do is you should have a plan for your Oni. These are intelligent monsters. They're devious and they're malicious. So liberally use the shape change, the invisibility, and the darkness abilities to try to trick, foil, and frustrate your players. So if you make use of the change shape ability, you could have the Oni try to charm one of the more powerful party members before combat to gain an ally, and it might use sleep in the battle if things are going poorly for it and several party members are badly wounded. So it might think, okay, I'm pretty bad off, I got to get out of here, but let me try sleep, and that way if several of them fall down, the others may not chase me when I run away. And then the gaseous form, I would save that for when the Oni is going to try to escape from the battle. That would be sort of it's, oh crap, these guys are a lot stronger than I thought. Boop, I'm going into gaseous form and getting out of here. Alright, so now how could you place Oni in your campaign? So Oni occupy that niche just at the top of Tier 1 and into the middle or upper range of Tier 2. Now there's several ways you could use them. In a wilderness setting, they might be the boss of a slave trading ogre clan. And we talked about how they have the they like to take slaves, and they have kind of competitions with each other and whatnot. So there might be like some old ruins out there, and there might be like a complex underneath those ruins, and that complex might be run by an Oni, and that Oni has all kinds of slaves that are there, and has a bunch of ogres that are working for it. So now another thing you could do, going off of sort of the night haunter and flesh-eating side of the Oni, you could put an Oni in an urban setting, and it could be the perfect serial killer. So if you think back in history, like probably the most famous serial killer in history is Jack the Ripper, who killed a lot of people in late Victorian London and was never positively identified, at least during his lifetime. And even 100 years later, there's been a lot of people trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper was, and ask 10 experts and you'll probably get 8 different opinions about who they think he actually was. Or whether it was even one person or multiple people. So the Oni could be that kind of person that, because they have the ability to change their shape, they could operate in a large city, like let's say in Forgotten Realms. They could live for decades in a city like Waterdeep and just change their shape and go to different wards of the city and appear like different people. And maybe they've just come into town for a while, and they might go around during the day as their humanoid shape, but then at night when they go hunting, they might assume their actual Oni shape, so that even if somebody sees them in the daytime, they would never think to connect that person with that big monster that they saw running away after, the neighbor was killed. So this could also give the Oni a chance to sort of relish in the terror that the murders cause. So it gets a thrill from those just as it gets nourishment from devouring some of its victims. And so that's another thing that you can use. How you can use it in a campaign. That I think can make a real interesting arc if you want to give your characters like a murder to solve or a series of murders to solve, and have that be one of the pieces of your campaign. Okay, now let's go and take a look at reskinning the Oni. A lot of times I will take a look at a monster and I will think, okay, what other types of things could do this? But the Oni is already an incredibly versatile stat block for any kind of creature that you want to create that fits the correct CR and has one or more of the Oni's abilities, which are the shape change, the spell casting, and the powerful melee combat. So originally in Oriental Adventures for First Edition, Oni were based on spirit Oni that are part of Oriental folklore. So you could tap into those roots by creating a monster that has a spirit being, since the Oni can be invisible and go into a gaseous form. So you might just take, say this is not a use the Oni stat block, but instead of saying this is a flesh and blood creature, have this be like a creature like a ghost or something that is insubstantial and can materialize enough to attack and cause damage, but also has these abilities that the Ogre Mage has. So you can think about those types of things. Alright, and now let's see. Time for the Q&A segment. Let me go over and look at the chat room. Okay, right now I don't see that there's any questions in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead into the wrap up, and then I'll come back and I will check the Q&A once again. All right, so I have been DM Gallibond, and tonight's Monster Monday we've been looking at the Oni. There are 3 other weekly streams that I do on Twitch, and like I said, I'm experimenting tonight with the simulcast on YouTube. We're going to see how that turns out. If everything goes okay with that, I may start simulcasting all of my streams on both Twitch and on YouTube. So, over on Twitch, I have on Sunday afternoons the Walker of Waterdeep. That is a 5e planeswalking game. Then on Thursday nights at 8 p.m., I have the Sword Coast Chronicles, which is another 5th edition game where we're kind of doing a survey of all of the published 5th edition campaigns. And then on Saturdays, we're doing a 2nd edition Saturday Night Greyhawk campaign. So we're using the 2nd edition D&D rules, and we're playing through some of the greatest hits of old D&D. Right now, we are in the early stages of going through the Temple of Elemental Evil adventure, which is an adventure that will take the characters up to level 8. And then after that, we will continue our campaign by looking at other classic adventures that are set in Greyhawk that are level appropriate. So we'll just kind of work our way all the way through some of the greatest hits in 2nd edition in that game. Alright, so let me go back and check the chat again. Okay, I still don't see any questions. So thank you guys for hanging out. If you like what we're doing, please give us a follow on Twitch or subscribe to us over on YouTube. Share the channel, share the video, like the video, click the post notification bell over on Twitter or on YouTube so that you get notified every time new content drops and every time we have a new stream. And with that, I'll sign off like I always do by reminding you to watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody. And let's go find somebody to raid. So I'm going to bring the music back up a little bit. And then I'm going to go and look at over here to see. I'm going to go over here to look and see what other people in my Twitch teams are doing. So I'm part of a couple of teams on Twitch now, Game Rebel Network and Small Streamer Community. And we will we'll see who is doing what. Okay, so alright, let's see. Ski takes. Valorant. Okay. SkeedyX is playing Valorant, so let's go see how that's going. Alright. Yep. Amish, you have a good night too. Take care. And we will talk to you guys in the next stream. Good night, everybody.